You guys ready? You ready? Okay. Well, I'm going to do something different and I'm going to open the meeting at 5 o'clock. This is the first meeting of the council year. So with the roll call, I will have the record show that all councilors were in attendance in person, nobody remote. And then the next agenda item is to swear in our newly elected councilors. So we'll start with town council. And where is Shelley? Oh, Shelley's right there. I will turn it over to Shelley.
All right, Shelley Crosby, Town Clerk, and welcome to the council meeting. At this time, I'd like to call Andrea Hardison down and John Quinn, please. So both Andrea Hardison and John Quinn were the top vote getters at our 11-4 election, which means that they earned themselves a 3-year term on our town council. Yes. So if you both are inclined, I'm going to do a combined oath swearing, if that is in agreement with you. Yes. Please raise your right hand. Do you, Andrea Hardison and John Quinn, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Maine so long as you shall continue to be citizens thereof? Do you also swear you will faithfully discharge to the best of your abilities the duties incumbent upon you as Orono Town Councilors according to the Constitution, the laws of this state, and the Orono Charter and ordinances? Congratulations, you are now sworn in. And we also need to do a swearing in of our RSU number 26 school board member, and that would be Noah. So Noah, I would ask you to join, and you got to see them swear, so this should be easy, right? Please raise your right hand. Do you, Noah Charney, swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Maine so long as you shall continue to be a citizen thereof? Do you also swear you will faithfully discharge to the best of your abilities the duties incumbent upon you as an RSU number 26 school board member according to the Constitution, the laws of this state, and the Orono Charter and ordinances? Congratulations. So this is the normal time within the agenda in which we entertain the organizational structure of the town council and we elect our officers. If the town council is inclined to do that this evening, then I will proceed with accepting nominations. Are we inclined to do that this evening? Okay, great. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to call for a nomination and a vote on the council chair. This is set in our municipal charter, section 1.12.c, and nominations are made live on the floor. And if there is one nomination and it's not a secondary, then that's pretty straightforward. If there are multiple nominations, then we would vote on each nomination separately. So at this time, I will open it up and call for nominations. Do I have any members who would like to put a name forward?
I'd like to nominate Dan Demerit for chair.
Second.
All right, I see that Councilor Laraway has nominated Dan Demerit with Sarah Marks coming in for a second. Do I have any discussion on that? Not at this time. Do I have any other nominations for any other names? And I'm going to call that no. So we are going to proceed with a vote for Dan Demerit. If you would like to cast for Dan Demerit, please raise your hand so that we can, for the record, see. And I would say that that is unanimous. Congratulations, Dan. You are now our council chair.
Yeah, it went up pretty fast, but
All
I
right.
have to raise my shoulder, then raise my hand, and grip the gavel and not let anybody take it away from me.
So Dan, would you like to take over the second part, which is for vice chair, or would you like me to handle that
Oh, I'd
for
love
you?
it if you do it.
Okay, great. So Dan is now your chair. He's turned it over for me to ask for a vice chair. So do I have any nominations from the floor or the board of a vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Sarah Marks.
Second.
Okay. So I have Andrea Hardison making a motion for Sarah Marks. And Rob, did I see that you were the second?
I was going to second, but I heard one over there already.
Oh, Matt, sorry about that. So Matt took the second on that. Any discussion? And do I have any other names on the floor for consideration or any other nominations to acknowledge? Hearing none, we will now call for Sarah Marks as our vice chair. If you agree with Sarah Marks, please raise your right hand so that we can acknowledge it for the record. Congratulations, Sarah. So that is your slate of officers.
Great. Thank you, Shelley, very much. Okay, with that housekeeping out of the way, we'll move to agenda item 4, which is agenda review. This is an opportunity for us to look ahead to tonight's agenda, see if there are any questions or any additions that councilors would like to add to the agenda, which would require a unanimous review, unanimous agreement from all councilors. Anyone have any questions or suggestions for the agenda? Okay. Next up is item 5, approval of the minutes for our October 27th, 2025. That was a workshop, right? And then the November 3rd town council workshop and meeting minutes. Could I have a motion to accept both of those or approve both of those?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, corrections, suggestions? Okay. All those in favor? And John, you're going to abstain from, yep. So that's 6. Yeah, 6 in favor, and John will abstain. He wasn't on the council at that point. Okay, public comment. Thank you for that. Public comment, item 6 is an opportunity for feedback from any member of the public who's with us this evening who would like to speak on an item that's not on our agenda. So if there's an agenda item coming up in the agenda moving forward and you want to speak on it, urge you to take your time with us during the actual agenda item. But is there anyone who'd like to speak with us in public comment on an item that's not on our agenda? There's also an opportunity at the end of our agenda for a public comment. Seeing none and not being notified that there are any online, we'll move past public comment and begin with item number 7, presentation discussion items. Item A, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee Yearly Reports. Who's going to bring that forward, Matt?
So this, we're just introducing, and we have the new chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Belonging to give us this report.
Sure.
And so I'm going to invite Malcolm Himshoot to come up and introduce himself and give us our last year's report and our work going into the future. Thank you.
Please join us. Yeah. Malcolm, if you could just introduce yourself when you.
I just want to say this is part of our charge for the DEIB committee, but it's also the first time we've ever done this. So this is starting a new precedent.
We'll get through it.
Did you push the button, Malcolm? Do you have a green light?
Yes. That one.
Try again if you
I'm
did. There-
still Malcolm Himshoot, and now you can hear me better. So I've been a resident of Orono for 6 years and a member of the town-appointed Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Belonging Committee for 3 years, I think. And what we have now, we have co-chairs. That's myself and Anila Karunakar. I have a 3-minute comment to go with the paperwork before you, if that's all right. Representing the members of the DEIB committee tonight, I wanted to say, as we look back at the year that has been, we want to thank town council members for the huge volunteer effort last year toward monthly potlucks and toward the Orono Festival Days. These were activities that modeled inclusivity and increasing a sense of belonging in our community. We commend town staff leaders for following through this past year with a training on diversity with It Is Time Consulting, emphasizing the wholeness of the many different identities people bring, including backgrounds shaped by lived experience with race and class. Those throughout Orono who worked this past year on truth-telling events like the Where Walk as part of rebuilding an appropriate relationship with the Penobscot tribal nation have honored all the people of this town. So there's much to celebrate and commemorate this year. And beyond just this year, we appreciate efforts by generations of folks in Orono who over the decades have brought goods like schools, ambulance, outdoor trails, and food and clothing within reach for many across a great socioeconomic range. So we seek equity in an ongoing way through physical infrastructure, leadership, decision-making, property, and material goods, so that shared buy-in can help us all create a better future for those who come after us. So the DEIB committee as one space for building relationships, listening, learning, and amplifying perspectives of those impacted by harm and power imbalance can be part of an ongoing process to help a town like ours achieve shared goals and grow. So I'm looking forward to the year to come because our committee membership is bringing a lot of energy and creativity, a sense of productivity, even building on ideas for educational work in the community and prospects for research and advocacy with the town as such. Our regular meetings are the first Tuesday night of each month at 6 p.m. And we do have one upcoming work session scheduled, a retreat. This is new to you, Matt, but just as of today, that'll be December 2nd, an extended meeting that evening. So lastly, an invitation. Margot Lukens, who's part of our committee, is also part of Wabanaki Reach, a nonprofit organization that does educational trainings for community groups. And we recommend that the next town in service that there might be, take advantage of Wabanaki Reach programming on Indigenous history and current issues right here in our part of Maine. I can offer that for those who are involved with faith communities, one of these workshops by Wabanaki Reach has been scheduled with the support of the Church of Universal Fellowship, where I am co-pastor, on over 2 dates, February 28th and March 7th. So if that's relevant to anyone here as a personal individual, please let me know and I can include you in that invitation. That's the program for faith communities. But Wabanaki Reach does have other opportunities that just wait for you to schedule. Thanks for having me here tonight. What's the nature of what your agenda item says?
Yeah, I think, does any members of the council have any kind of clarifying questions for Malcolm?
I don't have any questions. Just thank you very much for the ongoing work. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Marks?
Yeah, I think second what Rob said and just a big thank you. It was really wonderful to get this report and to be made aware of what the committee has been working on and also what's on your work plan, for the coming year. Because I think that helps us and me as a counselor, it helps me to be aware of issues that I might not otherwise have been. And I especially appreciated the real clear follow through and continuity on issues related to these topics. I feel like they do come before council. We make decisions about them, but we are also doing so many other things that have to do with economic development and budgets and capital improvement plans. And it gets easy to forget where we're at on some of these initiatives and what step we're at. So I also really appreciated having them all in one place and really tracking for us. I think I especially noticed it on our efforts with rebuilding and building better relationships with the Penobscot Nation, how helpful it was to me to see listed here, not just what has happened, but what is still in the works and not yet fully done, including what you highlighted around the Wabanaki Reach trainings, which I know has been recommended many times now by the DIB committee. And I hope maybe this is the year that we will move forward on that and fund that and have that happen. So thank you.
Okay. Anyone on Council
Thank you, Matt, for the report. You really, really led us in this process this year.
Thank you for stepping up and being chair. Thank you for stepping up and being chair, and Anila, and I'm looking forward to the next year. And thank you, council, for both of your support, for all of your support, and we will be doing this again next year.
I think that the work plan's ambitious, so thank you for kind of laying that out for us. And it's timely because we'll be doing our own goals and things like that as a council. So it's helpful to have those in front of us as we have those discussions. So Does anyone like to participate in this public comment in this presentation item? Does anyone have any comments for us? Members of the public? Nope.
I think one of the items on here perhaps is of interest. I had heard from some members in the community. One of the first items on the work plan was about accessibility, I believe, both through the downtown corridor as there's improvements potentially being designed for that corridor, but also in the thrift store. And I'm just wondering if anyone here had comments on that. I don't know, but I thought maybe.
Okay. Seeing none at this point, we'll move on. Do you want to come up and please do? Yeah, please introduce yourself. I'm sorry.
I may be Mary Ellen Brooks, and I am a volunteer on the board of the Orono Health Association. And I was hoping or wondering if tonight you were going to talk about making the thrift shop accessible, handicap accessible with a lift, with the possibility of an elevator, if anybody had been discussing that or thinking about that.
Yeah. I'm going to turn to the town manager. I think it's an item that's long been on kind of the capital and renovation plans, and I don't know that we weren't specifically planning to talk about it. It's on the work plan as an item that the DEIB committee wants to engage on for 25, 26. But it's not something we're going to delve into. We've received their work plan, but it's not something we weren't planning on
We're not
diving
going
into
to talk
tonight.
about tonight.
Yeah.
But when you do talk about it, would you be so kind as to alert the Health Association so that we can be involved in that discussion? Okay.
I will be a point for that, and I will absolutely be in contact with you guys over that coming time. This is something that I feel strongly about, and I intend to continue working towards seeing what we can do, whatever the town can do as we move forward. And as a counselor, I will be taking this up as something that I think is important.
Yeah, I know you have, Matt, and we appreciate you coming to our board meetings to hear our concerns. So I guess we'll just wait until you have some time for more discussion and let us know when we can participate in
Okay.
that. Yep.
Councilor Marks, do you have anything to?
Yeah, I guess I'm just wondering if this is also a time, as counselors, when we can request that I mean, I do know it's been talked about in various capital improvement programs and plans over the years, but I would love it this year if we were sure that that came with the detailed figures. I believe there was some fundraising done before by the Health Association.
was.
Some money may already be in a fund. So I guess that's just a request for me. And if it's only me, it won't happen. So
No, I would,
you know,
and
it's
I'd like to,
interested if
yeah.
the rest of council is interested in being sure that when we have this discussion, it comes with the full budgetary update to us about what already exists and what the cost would be.
And I think what would be helpful from the Health Association is to give us a history of any documents that you guys might have as to what has been done, any planning that was done in the past, any of that history in document form so that we can, and any of the town, I know the town staff probably has some ideas of that too, and any history from the town staff, and we can make that formal recommendation at a very soon to be council meeting.
Should we, I guess, look to you, but I don't know, is the finance committee, is there a vehicle moving where this would be, that we'd want to attach this to or have it as part of maybe a presentation or discussion on a future agenda item?
Council can direct me in any way you want. Facilities has been fully disclosed as not adequately identified and inventoried in the town. All facilities, every building, all needs. So that's where the staff has been working. It's another year-long process. We can definitely add it, but if it's to be anything more than just the fact of identifying ADA accessibility and that those will have costs, that would take council action because I'm going no further than just identifying all the needs of all our buildings in the next year through our facilities and master planning process. That's it.
So when will we next have that in front, like?
Capital improvement
budget?
programs, January and February.
Yep.
Will not have a detailed facilities plan. We have not had adequate time to prepare all facilities. So if you wanted to take this as a standalone, it would have to be with council direction.
All right.
I am not taking it as a highest priority project. It's not yet identified
Right.
in any of the lists of the needs of all our buildings. So we're
Yeah.
trying to figure them all out.
Okay. And we're trying, I think the council wants to work within the the logistics and schedule you'll have in terms of when, when's the right time for us to talk more about it, and if we want to
Yeah.
ask for it to be leveled up. I guess that's what my kids would say.
All I can tell you is right now is they're beginning the facilities process. There's been a good update. I was expecting to do an update January, February with the capital improvement program.
Uh-huh.
But to say there's an identified list, I think the next date would be one that we could identify at that point. And when that is, I don't know. I can't look that far forward on how
Yeah, no,
how
I
fast they're moving. Yeah.
Completely not asking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt?
And Clint, why don't I have just a short meeting with you about this in the next couple of weeks, and we'll just discuss your timeline and stuff so that I can communicate with the health association, and just because I know this is a very big and complicated issue, and I think it goes beyond just necessarily an elevator, and so I think this is something that I need to discuss with you separately.
And just again, for me to understand process on this though. So Matt, if you're meeting with Clint, that's great, but I'm hearing also that for anything more to happen at the council level on this, there would need to be council direction to staff that this was a priority project to pursue. And I don't think that we can give that direction as council until we get some of the backstory again on what plans already exist. And I understand the quotes are now probably 6 or 7 years old, and I'm sure the prices are no longer the same, but it would be helpful to at least see the existing plans again. Many of us weren't even on council. I saw them when I first came on, I believe. So I would personally like to request that there is some time when it becomes a council discussion item in more detail about what we already know about accessibility and elevators in that space, so that when the capital improvement discussion happens, we feel better informed to actually talk about it. So that's my personal request. If no one else on council is interested, it won't happen.
I'm interested.
That's two. And I'm certainly interested in having the conversation. Jacob? Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, sorry. Yes, I want to work in the confines of our current process and not prioritize something. Yes.
All right, so let's shoot for before the end of February. It seems like we'd be able to have a conversation. Matt, you'll get together with the town manager, kind of give us some feedback at either a future DEIB. It's kind of a DEIB work plan item, so you can come, however you want to share it with us, you can share it with us. And then Clint, with the council leadership team, we'll plan to, in those conversations, and we'll keep everybody apprised to when we're going to have it's expensive. But we'll be clear about it, and we'll talk about it, and we'll make the decisions with wide eye, clear eyes, and okay, great. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you. Okay. Speaking of expensive, item 7B, the Route 2 CDS status and future opportunities. The Route 2 projects with an S, I suppose.
Yeah, so the council, thank you for asking for an update. As you can see, and just to note for everybody that there was a lot of email communications. I used AI in support of this memo so that they could consolidate all the bullets and all the points. Working on a policy probably for the town on AI use. So until then, I'm disclosing anytime I use it to you. So the first one is the Route 2 CDS project update. That's $3 million worth of funding with no match required by the town for Route 2 corridor improvements. MDOT has worked with and selected Sebago Technics to do a preliminary design. It was a mutual discussion with them that they are going to focus on the plan work that they did and to start in the high priority downtown area, which again was outlined as bridge to, we were hoping, to Westwood, has now become more of the Oak Street intersection just at that bridge to Goodridge. It's expensive. You're looking at wide sidewalks, lots of stormwater, reconfiguration of intersections. This is the most expensive probably section of that corridor that they would do. It's also in one of the highest needs for the condition of sidewalks. And from the town's perspective, we thought showing this as a potential of how that whole project could be implemented down the road. The bad news on this is it's 14 to 16 months to do right away, which gets them completing at this time next year, which means they begin to get into the design, and bidding would be in the summer of 2027, which would mean a project start date of spring 2028 is what we're thinking right now. Those are not firm. Those are best estimates. So we're looking as we go through that, that's what they're going on. I will take a moment to share right of way. That's figuring out what is owned and what is not owned. Where are the property lines, surveying it and knowing where they are. We may find that the road's currently outside of the current right of way, well inside of the current right of way, but we don't want to move it further out. They've got to establish where that is. It's something that every large state project does. So that's where we are. There's no other additional work at this point. I have been asked by a resident to look, and I will probably do a little bit more looking into sidewalks in general. But again, we are looking at the long term of future projects. That gets us into bullet 2. What is the future of the Route 2 improvements? For lack of a better term, the $30 million project we were designing towards. There are no funding mechanisms at the federal level to do these now, even with a town match. We are continuing to relay to the state and to the federal government that we have and are prepared to make a match should funding come available, but there's none yet to do that. We've spoken as recently as a week ago on this again, and we'll be speaking with them in the next few weeks just to reiterate that if any funding sources do come about, we are continuing to be interested. I would say that using the CDS and what's going on, this will be multiple small projects. Large scale projects just aren't happening. I'm not going to say never, just saying a lot less likely than they were 1 year ago when we were having these conversations. How will that play out? I'll keep you posted. If funding sources come available, we'll bring those to you, see if the community wants to approve pursuing it. So that's where we are with the long-term Route 2 corridor project. The bridge, significant headway, I guess you would say, or information. We are having some lighting issues. Some have been deteriorated due to the conduit eroding. They are working and they have not received state approval to install the new conduit as of this memo date. I have not been updated this week, but again, it is only Monday. We are looking at alternatives for solar lighting, or overhead wiring in order to get those lights back and operable. And it is my understanding, I haven't been down there since this weekend, but I do believe they're still not operable. In that, the other conversations we talked about, widening the bridge, not going to happen. It's a $20 million project. And they did not want to do a replacement of that bridge for at least another 20 years. So that's not something they're willing to consider. That does create the problems that we probably can't widen the existing sidewalks. They were not a no, though, to taller railings that may redesign the railing structure. That could cost $300,000 to $500,000, but we would need an exception for the crash worthiness standards. They feel that's unlikely because of the priority 2 status, but unlikely means not no in my book. So we're working towards what can we do to make that more likely. And that's where we are, but that I think would be a big improvement as we go forward. I wish there was more to share than that, but that's the best information I can tell you. One of the conversations, Councilor Demerit, you were aware of as well. I was asked by a resident about the ability to fix some of our sidewalks outside of the area we're talking about. I think one of the issues we're running into that would be locally funded, and we could find that locally, but that would completely stop any future projects under the Sebago research. Because if we were just going to fix what's there, I equated it to like fixing a road. The state comes in and puts down maintenance surface treatment. They will then not reconstruct the road within the next 5-10 years. It's been maintained. It's got a 5 to 10 year life. Sidewalks don't receive the traffic of a high road, so they last a lot longer. I would just say it's a significant investment. Current numbers are around $50 a linear foot for 4-foot wide sidewalks. So when you're talking 3 miles on both sides of the road, millions of dollars to do them. Could we do a simple overlay? I don't know. That's one of the ideas I had, and I got to talk to Public Works about it. And we're going to see what some of those things would do. But again, whatever we did do, I think would close the door of any right-of-way larger project for a period of time. How long? I got to ask MDOT. It's a new question, just got posed last week, kind of doing some research on it ourselves. So that's the full report on Route 2 and where we are.
Okay, does anyone have a question? Councilor Baker?
Yeah, so to refresh my memory, Clint, on the Route 2, so the 3 million is our state funds that we receive, that we received, correct?
The 3 million is the federal funding that
Or
we received
federal, oh, okay, I thought
with
that
a
was state
state,
funding.
a main
Okay.
state DOT match of 300,000 to it.
Okay, so those are not funds that we would spend as a town.
They're not no local tax dollars.
Okay.
Nope.
And then, so the next many months are going to be talking about right away, figuring out what the town owns and exactly what the town can do as far as expanding sidewalks, et cetera.
Yep.
Okay. And then,
And oh,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, one thing we have indicated to them is we now own both sides of the street right here.
Yeah.
And to be very creative now with this new information, we're going to follow up with an in-person to see what kind of opportunities that does open. But we said, now that this is here with our Pine Street intersection, we could get very, very bold.
Okay.
In what we could accomplish. Obviously don't want to lose the buildings that are sitting on them, but we could definitely look at it from a perspective as the landowner. Whatever you need to do, we'd be interested in.
Perfect. And then, so third question is, so as part of this right away conversation, I assume that there will be plenty of opportunity for public input. And I asked that because when we were contemplating the larger Route 2 project, a lot of the discussion was, well, primary discussion was on rotaries, second was on right of ways. And even if, the town technically owned something, what that meant to people along Main Streets, front yards, et cetera. So
I want to meet with them on the town level as to what the presentations will be of designs and how they will roll them out. If you remember, I shared an infographic that MDOT did, that once they go to this design process, they're supposed to have 2 more public meetings to share it, but that does not interfere with one-on-one property owners meetings.
Perfect.
Those are handled privately due to the individual natures and potential privacy of land negotiations that may occur. There may be offers for money in exchange for the land, and those are usually not public in those conversations. So those will be case by case.
So there'll be plenty of opportunity for public input on this.
Yes.
Yep. Awesome.
I'm also curious what you think, Dan, about this, and Clint. What I'm concerned is if we come in with a big project with sidewalks and stuff going through downtown, which I think is good and excellent, people are going to be coming in going like, what happened to the Route 2? Would it be good to have a community meeting where we just update people, basically like you're updating me now, because a lot of people don't necessarily listen to our town council, but they would if you were saying we're having a big meeting about the Route 2 update and had people come in, at least let them know this is where we're at. It's not going to happen for a while. And instead we're thinking of utilizing this 3 million. Then people aren't surprised and being like, why are we doing this instead of that big project? Or why is this part of that big project? I don't know what you guys think, or whether that's a waste of time.
Or website or something instead of having a big public
The
meeting.
only, the one advantage, oh, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, one thing we need to be mindful of is we had a pretty assertive and aggressive communication in the town late last summer, fall, and on October 7th, we passed order 24-230, which is a resolve supporting the Route 2 corridor community direction and design project. That included elements in terms of how the town would engage with like the core, people living along the right of way and things like that. So I think it'll be important that we revisit that and understand kind of what priorities we set in terms of the engagement. And if we need to adjust it because of the scope is smaller, that's certainly something we could do. But let's take between now and the next meeting, maybe let's take some time to look at that resolution, just so we make sure we being consistent with what we committed to in terms of engagement process. Does that make sense to people?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I thank you for that, Dan. I also just wanted to point out that I think that's really important. And I really appreciate the timeline that Clint brought us about when the bidding would happen and when construction might happen. And also when the conversations would begin with landowners for right-of-way issues, which is very soon, it sounds like. But I do think there's another group that's not the abutters and landowners. And I just want to be sure that there's some clear plan for when that level of public engagement begins with folks who maybe don't own the land right on the corridor. And it presumably needs to happen a lot before the bidding, right, which is the summer of 2027. So we want to keep that sort of timeline in mind, that we need to be sure those public meetings begin early enough before we get toward a bidding stage.
I agree. Anybody else have anything on this one? I would say, Clint, how do you think this impacts? We had at our November 3rd meeting, we had an order that came up from the Community Development Committee about the Oak Street, Main Street, Silk Bridge kind of challenges we have there. And we directed you to come up with a plan. How do you want to, how do you plan to integrate that direction from the council with this update that we got
Well,
today?
the Sebago report actually told how they thought that should be done. So that's where staff is moving towards, is to
Okay.
do it that way.
All right.
So whatever we do would not be duplicative of a future project, and maybe be an investment now. There has been a lot of different conversations of ways that could be adjusted, but again, I think our current goal is to bring you that plan.
And what do you think, though? It sounds like that plan is, the order said to be completed before the end of the 2026 construction season.
Mhm.
And by my read, that wasn't the, I think you could read it as saying the plan would be completed. Now, as I read the resolution, the order carefully, it could say the plan would be completed by the 2026 construction season. I think it was our intent was to have, stuff in the ground by the end of the 2026 construction season.
And I think the staff's recommendation is going to be anything we can put in the ground that would not be destroyed within the next 2 years for a larger project. I would not want to see us spend any amount of money that we would have to rip up.
Yeah.
And not be able to salvage in just a year or two.
Perfect.
So that's kind of where we're looking at it, but we just that was the only internal conversation we've had so far.
And you think, okay, and that obviously that'll come back to council for a vote on whatever the plan is. So if you're planning, 20-foot speed tables, it'll come back to council and we'll have a vote on it.
Planning put in the capital improvement program
Yep.
too,
Okay.
in case if there's no funding this year, the backup could it be funded in next year's program? Because this year's funding, I don't know if we'll have enough money for it unless we reallocate. And well, we'll know more about that after the December 1st workshop.
And finally, do you think it makes sense to have something in the Observer on an update on the Route 2 stuff? Given that we've learned something, I know that we have a deadline, the Orono Observer deadline is like now, but I also know that we had our good friend Cody is coming back soon, so. Could we
As
do-
long as the only thing I would report is what's in that memo.
Yeah.
No additional detail, a short summary of what's in there.
Just get AI to make it sound, friendlier.
Yep.
More Oronian, but yeah, I think that'd be great. Thank you. All right, anything else on this one? Anything from the public? Nope. Item 7C, review of the town council 360-degree survey results. There was a 8-page memo of results that we posted publicly for all to see. Sarah, do you want to kick it off? And
I'm fine if you want to, but really the goal here is for every counselor to be able to sort of share down the line, like what did you take from these results? This is our chance here to reflect upon what staff have given us feedback, residents and community members have given us feedback. We've given ourselves feedback about how we are doing on the goals we set for ourselves. This connected to the goals we had set regarding to our yearly goals, also to our commitments, our service promises. So it looks back at every sort of overall large commitment we made as a council of what our goals were for these past 12 months. So I think, Dan, you're just looking for volunteers to share, for the community to know. There were 61 responses to the survey, 12 from staff, 40 from residents, and others, and some 8 counselors. Somebody overdid. I don't know who is the overachiever on
Gonna
the
fess up.
counselors, but we had 8 instead of 7. But at any result, those are the responses we had, and this is our chance to hear from each other about what we took from these survey results. I will say that the council has read every response, all the raw data responses. The community has seen the report back.
does anyone want to kick off with observations or thinking? Rob, do you want to?
I don't have a lot of thoughts. I think I really valued, especially getting to see the feedback from staff in the day. I perused the main sort of overview that we were given, but really I just read all these responses and tried to sort of parse it together myself, understanding. I mean, overall, it seems like the community is continues to be concerned about budgets, the tax burden, and I don't blame them for that. I think we're all concerned. I think at the same time, I was pleased with, I guess, this process, first of all, being the first time that we've had something like this since I've been paying attention to council and on council. And I'm glad that we did this, and I hope that we continue to do this. But maybe more thoughts will emerge as we continue to discuss this. I had many when I was first reading this last week, but I'm trying to recall that now.
Andrea?
I think I was pleased to see that more people in the community are feeling heard and that we're responding to concerns and questions from residents and really making your voice matters important.
Yeah. I thought we were, looking at how the numbers stacked up in terms of the means. I thought we were, a little more generous with ourselves than maybe the staff or the public. I do think, rightfully so, in the economic development housing, those, we had some goals that are long-term goals, for economic development and housing that are, coincide with, changes in staff, a new town manager and things like that. So, I thought that was certainly an area where, we really wanted a tangible goal that we could point to and say, we did these couple things. And I don't think, we didn't cut any ribbons or anything like that. So I think we've got work to do, but, I think we're going to be talking about how we advance that work a little later on in today's agenda with a plan that the town manager has brought forward in terms of adding capacity to Orono's ability to pursue some of these opportunities, because they're an incredible amount of work. And, it's hard to deliver on promises about community engagement, community building, relationship building, and your voice matters, and still doing these other things that take up a lot of resources, in terms of economic development and housing. So, Matt?
I thought it was particularly interesting. Beyond, I really enjoyed seeing what the community thought of us, and I think it was very valuable. Both the criticism and the people who thought we were doing a good job. It's valuable to see what they have to say, and it was particularly valuable for me to see people's responses who work for the town of Orono, because I think one thing that I'm mindful, just like tonight, it can be very confusing and whiplashing to people who work for the town when we're trying to hash things out up here. But thank you guys for those of you who are responded and let us know what you think, and I look forward to trying to learn from all voices on this.
Council Baker?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be careful about drawing any sort of grand conclusions from this, since there were 67 or 61 respondents. But yeah, I appreciated the responses about increased communication, increased transparency. Or I guess a couple other items that I took out is there were some concerns about fiscal management, economic development, which I think, we all kind of have those front of mind as we develop the budget and through every process or every decision we make. I also, given the number of I don't know responses, suggests to me that the general, public isn't as ingrained in the day-to-day operations of the council and the town, and wants simply, plowed streets, manageable taxes, and kind of the big picture items. So I think, it's important to kind of keep those big picture ideas at the forefront in a lot of what we do.
Yep. John?
Yeah, this was a nice little cheat sheet coming on to council, where had all this great feedback. Seemed like a good amount of engagement from town staff, which was super helpful to me coming on, where I was able to read a lot of feedback on how things have been going and where the strengths are, particularly around. I also kind of made note of the way successes in development and housing are kind of communicated, and what the visibility on that sort of thing might be, as well as, looking forward towards budget time, some of the things that might be helpful to town staff and the folks that are kind of living those budgets in the day to day, what they're looking for. So I really appreciated that insight as I was reading through it.
And of course, thank you, John. And kicking it back to Sarah to wrap it up, I do think I've been interested and pleased that, people are participating in our elections, and, the council, the 360 survey is certainly a more targeted opportunity on some specific questions. I do take it as a sign of encouragement that the councilors who are seeking reelection are being reelected. I think that over the past few years, everyone who's sought to stay on the council has been successful with that. It doesn't feel like we have a groundswell of anger or uncertain, that in terms of, John, I wouldn't put you down as an angry candidate for the reactionary candidate. We'll see how it goes, right? We haven't voted on a lot yet, but I mean, it feels like there's a good energy, good Orono energy around our elections too, which I think is really helpful. And we're getting good candidates, those that have won and those have been stepped forward. So that's encouraging as well. And it's, not reported in the data, but it's something I wanted to share too. So Councilor Marks, and thank you, Councilor Marks, for all your work to, as is typical, it takes a lot of work to get these things done, and we can always count on you. So thank you.
Thank you. And it was really helpful to hear what everyone else took on council from the results too. I kind of looked at it as sort of what are the overall patterns that I saw, first of all. And, the first thing that stuck out at me as I looked through the report was all these red bars were significantly higher when the red bars were the somewhat agree that we're doing a good job as council, as opposed to the strong, disagree bars were green. So I will just say that when I looked at it, I was like, okay, this is good. Like overall, people are saying we're doing a good job on the commitments we put forward, and that those commitments make sense to the majority of people. So that to me was, you never know when you put this out, right? I mean, we could get the survey back with everyone saying totally wrong direction. So I was pleased to see that. I was more pleased actually to see when I looked at the mean numbers, mostly I was curious whether how council saw ourselves was in line with how other people did. And I also noticed that we think a little better of ourselves than either the residents or the community members. But more than that, I noticed that the patterns were very consistent across all three groups. So the areas where we saw ourselves as perhaps being the weakest and needing to work more were the same areas that staff and the community pointed out. And, those three were the long-term financial planning, which we all know we're working really hard on and we've made a lot of progress on. And Clint has talked to us a lot about, all of the things that he's been working to change. It's a big project. So I don't think that was a surprise to any of us that it's not where it needs to be, but that it's getting there. Likewise, economic development and housing, which other folks up here have spoken about, is also a big scale project where we may not be where we want to be yet, but we're making steps in the direction. And then the last one was making engagement easy for community members, and folks commented on seeing progress, but still not there. And those were some very specific things like around tutorials of how to do things. So I think what was nice to me was what I saw was consistent, that those of us sitting up here don't appear to have some big blind spots about the areas where we need to keep growing and improving. And that made me really happy. And then I guess I would say more on a perhaps personal level, some of the things that I took away that were important for me. It was really, as folks have said, really, I noticed especially wonderful for me to be able to hear directly from staff. The way our form of government is created for this council manager form of government, we're not supposed to be getting feedback directly from staff. That goes through our town manager, which is a really important system so that the town manager can do his job, staff feels safe. That's all great. And I appreciate it, but I also appreciate that allowing this anonymous format to reply gave staff a chance once a year to let us know directly what they feel like we're doing well and not quite as much. So for me, that was very helpful. I also there were a couple comments that stuck with me, perhaps because of my particular roles and jobs on council, but one was about being sure that perhaps council feedback on the budget could happen earlier in the process. That comment really stuck out for me. And I know we're taking steps starting with our kickoff retreat tomorrow to hopefully make that happen by allowing staff to present on their departments and give us background information and build some of the connection and background before we move into the budget season so that the budget season really can have more back and forth with council goals from the start. So that really resonated with me. And I think the other one was on the Your Voice Matters. A comment that really resonated with me was, I'm very committed to Your Voice Matters. And I think it's really important that we remember as counselors that when we created that, it never said every single person in town will get what they want. And sometimes I think we tend to forget that what it said was, we will listen carefully to you. We will do our best to try to find creative solutions. We will certainly look for themes when there's a group of people that are all coming with similar concerns, but we may need to remind ourselves as counselors, that we can't give everybody everything they want. And I felt like that reminder from staff was also important to me to remember how that promise was originally framed. So that's what I have. And just a big thank you to folks on staff who filled out the survey, folks in the community who did, and to fellow counselors for all doing it. I agree 61 is not a lot, but it was enough for me to get a flavor. And there was a lot of variety in comments that came back. And in the staff case, it was 12 out of maybe 88. So, 1 out of 7, which felt significant enough to me that I felt like I was getting a sense anyway. So thank you.
Okay. Anything else on any comments from anybody in the public? Okay, we will close this item and move on to public hearings. And I will open public hearing A to consider amendments to the Town of Orono Code of Ordinances, Chapter 18, Land Use.
Good evening, Mitch Stone, Assistant Town Manager, filling the planning role at this moment. I will give a brief overview. Obviously, there's a lot of information that's in your packet, but for the most part, there are two pieces to this that I'll kind of go through. I think the other thing that's really important is I know that we are coming to the conclusion of comp plan, and changing ordinance now seems like maybe it's early. These are housekeeping or things that are really not addressed in the comp plan, but really things that are just left over from years of doing things different ways. So if you look at, there are two kind of memos that are in there that kind of talk about the major issues. The first memo, it really is around how staff operates, and the fact that everything in our ordinance is written based on the code enforcement officer. And when these were written, we didn't really have a planner. So it's really to update the language to allow the planner to do the planning function and the code enforcement officer to do the code enforcement function, changing that to the planner or designee. The second piece to that is around major and minor subdivisions. And in there, it suggests that maybe the planning board has a way to determine that, but it's very well clearly spelled out on how that all operates. And so they really don't have that. There were some flow charts that were put together in 2003 to talk about how this process works. And those are in there as well. Through this process with any of these types of ordinance changes, they go to the planning board with land use and in planning board process. The planning board on this first section, they voted unanimously to recommend that it move forward and that it met their requirements. The second piece of this is around legislation on manufactured or mobile homes. The legislation change that requires the town to allow them anywhere that a single family home is allowed. And this is just updating that to reflect that. I think the other piece that's important to understand is it does not affect where you put mobile home parks. If you have a specific park that has mobile homes, you can zone or put restrictions on where those are. And the other piece is that you can also add other restrictions about standards in this, how they look, or whether they need to be on a fixed or on a foundation and things like that. So those are the kind of highlights of these two things. That second one as well, the planning board recommended that it move forward as well. And I will answer any questions that anybody might have. And if for some reason I don't have the answer, I will find it for you. So.
Okay, we'll start with any clarifying questions. Okay. Seeing none, any members from the public who'd like to participate in this public hearing? Thanks, Mitch. You're just double duty. No hands raised online from, okay. This is not a discussion item. Let's come up again at our meeting in, is it 2 weeks?
Yep.
That we'll do this again?
Yep.
For action. Okay. Well, thanks to the planner and the planning board for their work on this. They got a lot of institutional knowledge and expertise on the planning board, which is helpful. So, okay, I guess we'll close this public hearing. Thanks, Mitch. How we doing on time? A little behind, okay. We'll do acknowledgement by council members, and we'll start with the left side of the table. Councilor Larway.
None at this time, thank you.
Councilor Hardaway. Councilor Hardison.
At this time.
Councilor Marks.
I think you already sort of gave mine, but I just sort of wanted to thank the planning board. They do a tremendous amount of work, and I'm not sure how often we stop. And every time we get one of these reports back, comes from the planning board and the town planner. I think how very much work is going on there all the time. Thank you.
Councilor Powers.
I just wanted to say thanks to Clint and also to Public Works for cleaning up under the bridge. That was a big job. Thank you for doing that. And that just keeps a bunch of stuff from going into our rivers and eventually to the sea. So thank you guys for taking care of that.
Councilor Baker.
Yeah, and I'll bring up in future items about doing a resolution for these folks, but UMaine cross country team and the soccer team both won conference championships, which is a huge deal for them. So congratulations to them.
Councilor Quinn.
Yeah, thank you. Was also going to shout out the soccer team, and just wanted to thank everybody here for welcoming me on board and in advance for your patience as I get up to speed.
Excellent. I'd like to thank everyone who came out and voted in Orono's municipal elections. This was the first year when our full municipal elections were held in the fall, since the charter change of a couple of years ago. So thank you to everyone who made that adjustment, everyone who came out and voted. Thank you to Shelley Crosby and the election team. They are a phenomenal Orono run, and the University of Maine and the U votes. Orono runs an amazing election. You really feel like it's a community event and celebration as much as it is a citizen obligation. So really proud of the work they do and the results that come in. And I would share of the totals in the municipal election for council. Interestingly, we could have. I'm actually the lowest vote getter of any member of the council at this point. Having been beaten by a write-in when I first got on. So it's now official. No, everyone's got more votes than me. But nobody gets more votes than blanks. So we have conversations about, we are a university town, we're a college town. And what I find, I would like very much for every member of our community who comes to our poll, to cast a ballot, to be informed and be ready to participate in our municipal elections, as well as, the state elections or the federal elections that are on the ballot. But just to provide comfort to those who maybe were concerned that, oh geez, if we have these elections in the fall, it could mean something really people who don't know the candidates leave those ballots blank. And we see that again and again, and we certainly saw that in the results from November 3rd. So we'll give back 7 minutes and move back to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an opportunity for the council to act on as a move and act in a single action with no discussion by town council members. But any member of the public or any member of the council can ask to have something removed from the consent agenda and placed as an action item for further discussion.
Dan,
Yes.
since I didn't share out the agreement in the advance of the meeting for our new staff member, would the council like to pull that and have a conversation?
What's the will? The contract for the new staff member?
Which order are you looking at?
It's
Oh, okay.
EJ. Yep.
25, 270,
281.
280.
Yeah, sure. Let's pull it
Yeah,
so we
the
can hear.
ice, the ice bucket guy, the ice guy.
Yeah.
Remember? Our dunk tank.
Then we don't see him.
Do you want to, do you,
It's up to you. He's here as well.
You said you didn't include what?
I didn't send out a copy in advance to
I
you.
just assume have it pulled so we can hear a little more and
Yeah,
celebrate
yeah.
this arrival.
I want to talk about the dunk tank.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's pull it. We'll pull that one. Can we do that at the top since EJ's here and he doesn't have to stay?
I also have one, Dan.
Sure.
I'd like to pull order 25-277 with our council schedule and holiday calendar.
Okay.
I have some items I'd like to talk about on that.
Okay. Are you okay if we do that at the end?
I'm fine if you do that wherever you would like to do it.
Thank you. Let's do that one at the end then. Okay. And I always try and make, I try and, yep. All right. So can I get a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? All right, it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, we'll do first order action item 25281. Clint, do you want to walk us through the contract, or what was your intent for that?
No, I don't think just, shoot, something's going on with my, just introduce EJ Roach. He's the recommended new hire. I have executed an employment contract like with all senior staff. He's being hired in as the planner and economic development manager. There are hopes with his experience and background that we could see him rise to the level of a full director in the economic development department at some point. Everything is being funded through the TIF budget. And he comes to us under a multi-year agreement, and we're excited to have him and someone of his experience.
Yep.
So
We're excited as well.
Yeah, EJ is phenomenal and shows you how much I read the consent agenda items. I totally missed it was you, EJ. So no, in all seriousness, he's going to be a great asset to this town.
Okay. Can I get a motion on order 25280?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Anything from the public? Okay, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Welcome, EJ. It's great to have you on board. We'll do next order 25284, order authorizing employee recognition awards for those employees completing 5, 10, 35, and 40 years of service. Can I have a motion?
So moved. Seconded.
Seconded and third. Clint, do you want to talk us through this for a little bit?
I'd love to. I'm getting mine. There we go. Having some technical difficulties. I apologize. No, kind of a staff tradition. We do a staff appreciation in December. Thought it'd be good to have an order for the council to see all the people achieving great milestones. We don't list the new hires. That'll be done at the staff appreciation. Quite a few of them this year, but again, if you don't mind, I'd like to just share out, achieving 5 years of service with us is Megan Mazzella, Parks and Rec Director, Daniel Patterson, Community Policing Officer, Samuel Wiseman, Fire Department, 10 years, Keith Crosby at Wastewater, Shelley Crosby, our town clerk, and Mitch Stone, Assistant Town Manager. 35 years of service being achieved is Brian Hardison, Fire Department, and Wes Nelson, who's Facilities. And finally, Lori Carpenter, achieving 40 years of service as working at the library, but currently our library director. So quite amazing achievements for all of them.
Anyone have anything? Yeah, I think we should clap, but I would also encourage. Thank you. And we're all free to recuse ourselves when we feel it's necessary, but I certainly don't feel like it's necessary for anyone to recuse themselves on this one, but that'll be up to. Yep. Good. With that, all those in favor of order 25284? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Order 25285, order approving the amendments to the Town of Orono Code of Ordinances, Chapter 30, Solid Waste. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And seconded. Clint or Rob? Clint, do you want to walk us through? This has come through the Ordinance Review Committee.
Did. Whoops. Do you want to leave?
Yeah,
off?
I mean, I don't have much to say. We've talked about this at length. We had some public hearings on it. But yeah, Clint, if you have anything you want to.
Sure. Yeah, again, I don't want to go through the memos or everything that's attached. This has gone through the entire process. It did go through the Ordinance Review Committee. It was a council request to look at this. It ended up going down some different paths. One of the things we did look at that I think is important to note is how we could change maybe the number of apartments getting free service and how that invited the impacts to the commercial service and the cost coming to the town. That was ultimately not pursued by the committee. but they did come forward with some great language changes. It kind of downplayed the town manager to saying the public works director. Again, that's who you want overseeing it. Let's references to the businesses and the companies. There was actually some very specific name call outs to who our haulers were. We use those more generically. Cleaned up the language around the haulers for what our current bid process was. And what was the last one? Oh, and the number of 4 containers. The reference of 4 waste containers continues to be a question with the staff and the community that's the number of containers you give out at max for the free curbside service. So, but yeah, that's the short of it. It is being recommended by the committee. Staff supports it, was very heavily involved, and is excited by the changes.
Okay. Any clarifying questions? Any comments from the public? Any council discussion?
I was just going to say, I appreciated the work. And as someone who cares a lot about details, I really appreciated all the effort to make this as easy as possible to not have to update for tiny little changes. I really appreciated taking out the names of certain companies and really building this in a way that we'll have to change it if a significant change happens in how we're doing service, but not just because we've written it in a way that it's too specific to, be workable long-term. So thank you.
I like this process.
Yeah.
I like that we don't want to have memos come forward to us like, this is to update we get a lot of memos where we're updating the ordinance to reflect the way things actually are done.
Yeah.
And that's it's not really how it's supposed to work, right? So it's systematic, it's routine, and over the course of 5 years, Rob, we're gonna get it all done.
That's the hope eventually.
And then we'll keep, set it up on a continuing loop or process so that we are regularly updating the memos from a staff perspective in particular, in terms of what needs to be done to keep us in compliance with changing state laws, changing practices. It's not, community development committee is a lot more fun because you get to throw festivals and stuff like that. But this is important work, and I'm glad that we get it done, Rob. And appreciate your leadership on the committee as well. So, all right. Anything else? All those in favor of order 25-285? All right, and that was unanimous. And we'll move on to order 25-286, order accepting the proposal from Pike Project Development to purchase the town of Orono's interest in property located at 98 Penobscot Street for $100,000 and negotiating a sale, and further authorizing the town manager to execute all documents necessary to effect this transfer and release the town's interest in said property, with proceeds going to the Strategic Development Reserve and funding the OEDC agreement. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Clint, do you want to give us
Yep.
give us the high level?
Yep, so the memo's attached. We had 2 bids that we were received. Both are also attached. Very comparable bids. There were some minor differences just on the companies, their intended uses. But again, both were proposing a allowed use within that zone for a business purpose. One was the higher bid. That's the recommendation that was coming forward for the higher bid at the $100,000 amount. And then again, with a little bit of the ad at the end of where those funds go, from the conversations the council's had and the different projects we've had, is that these proceeds would go just into your general revenue line. But again, we had created a strategic development reserve that we weren't able to fund in last year's capital program, as well as we signed an agreement with OEDC that I had indicated at one point that if we ever sold this property, it would be a good way to fund that $50,000 commitment. So that's why those were attached to the end of this, that out of this $100,000 sale, half would go to that relationship with OEDC for strategic planning of our town-owned lands and other parcels to meet our common goal to grow the housing of the town and grow the taxable base of the town. And the other 50,000 would sit in a strategic development reserve that can only be expended with council approval.
Okay. Any clarifying questions? Any comments from the public? Any discussions from council? Seeing none, following tonight's action, we'll get back to CMI Concrete, right? In terms of, they're an Orono business, is that correct? So yep. All right, all those in favor of order 25-286? Okay, it looks like, Zach, you've got yourself a former Public Works building. That's unanimous. So thank you for the bid and all you do for Orono. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Next up is order 287, order appointing council members to the following council committees. Do you want me to read them out, everybody, or does someone just want to move them? Matt?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. These are we got survey results in from all the counselors and everyone. We heard from everybody and we got everybody their first choice of committees. And appreciate everyone's willingness to step up in all these various roles. Does Sarah or Clint, do you have any comments?
Thanks everyone for filling out your survey on time. It made our job easy. Thank you.
Yep. And any questions? Any comments from the public? All those in favor of order 25-287? It's unanimous. Thank you. Everyone's got a committee. And take a order 25-288, order appointing Orono Town Council liaisons to the following. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Same. Thank you to everybody for stepping up. Any questions or comments? Councilor Baker?
I actually do have a serious question, although it sounds like I'm joking. But why is my term expiring 1 year later than his? I've been on it for a year already.
I noticed that too.
I'm going to punt that one to Clint because we didn't talk about expiration of terms. We just talked as a leadership team about who was
I
being
mean, I'm fine
nominated.
doing
So
it.
Here comes Mitch to answer.
So what we had done is we rotated. Last year, you appointed 3 to that. And after much conversation with OEDC, we decided that only 2 would be there. So we just flipped your term to Leo's term, which was that expiring later, and then got rid of the other one.
You got a longer opportunity to serve. So, okay. If you want to, you can amend it if you want to, but you two okay? That is the
legitimate question.
No, it's yeah. Okay. All right. Seeing no more discussion, all those in favor of order 25-288? All right. Thank you. Next up, we have one more action item, right? We moved order 25-277, order approving the council meeting schedule for the 2026 council year and the 2026 holiday calendar. We're going to have a discussion, but can we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. And Council Marks, you had a couple things you wanted to raise?
Yes, I did. And they're all on the holiday schedule. So for counselors, if you are looking at your attachments and you want to pull that up, I looked at the holiday schedule just to compare it to last year's. I don't know. I just wanted to double check. And I noticed a few things when I did it, and that led me to a few more discussions with other folks I know in the community. So I'm kind of coming back to you with a couple different things that I'd like to see slightly amended on here. The first is down under Diwali, Deepavali. For some reason, last year we listed that holiday as a 6-day duration, and this year only 4. And in talking to various folks in the community and doing research, the holiday is actually 5 days long and not 6 or 4. And it is this year from November 6th to November 10th. So I would like to suggest that we amend those dates to say November 6th to 10th. I would also like to suggest that we add a parenthesis saying especially November 8th, because it's actually the 3rd day of that 5-day holiday that is the most important one, according to 4 different community members I spoke to who come from communities that celebrate that holiday. So that's my first suggested amendment to the holiday calendar. My second one comes under Ramadan. Folks may be very well aware that Ramadan is a holiday that keeps shifting where it happens in the calendar year, and we're moving backwards through the calendar year a bit each year. So when we began this list of holidays, Ramadan was in June, which meant that sunset was quite late. We're now back to February, so sunset is quite a bit earlier. So I think it would be wise to just in the parentheses say to plan to end before sunset if possible, because in reality, we really may not be able to fully get to the end of the council meeting, even starting an hour earlier at 4 before sunset. And I just don't want to set us up to be promising something that we can't necessarily do. I did again speak to 3 different members of the community who are Muslim and celebrate this holiday. And I would like to bring 2 other ideas that we could consider doing during that month with our council meetings that I think would help to accommodate that holiday. One is to change our notation at the beginning of our meetings, which says that in our first public comment, we only allow public comment for things not on the agenda later. I think it would be nice in that month to alter that. Council would probably have to vote to do that, but to alter that to say, you may comment here on anything, whether it's on the agenda later or not, so that anyone who needed to leave a meeting early could do that. That would obviously apply equally to everyone, not just to anyone celebrating Ramadan. Anyone in the whole public could choose to do that. And I also think it might be nice to allow folks to make a request to have an item moved earlier in the agenda if there was an item that was important to them. Again, everyone in the community during that month, just to really accommodate folks who do need to leave before sunset. So those are my specific suggestions. I also want to highlight that as Ramadan keeps moving back, when we get to December, we may need to flop this language to suggest that we meet quite a bit after sunset. Sunset will become 3:45. And the sort of window for the most important prayer times is about 2 hours long. So if we started a meeting at 6:30, we'd be on the other side of it. So I just want to flag for council, if I'm not here, I'm not elected on again, and other folks, pay attention. There may come a time where you need to flop this to be the most inclusive possible in the dead of winter, which is dark here in Maine. And lastly, I would like to suggest that in the future, we make it a practice to send this holiday calendar to our DEIB committee before it gets to council, because I think a lot of these things that I caught would be caught faster and earlier and probably better by folks with even more knowledge than me if we ran the holiday calendar through that group before it got to us. So there you go. Lots of suggestions. I guess 2 are like actual suggested amendments to this printed calendar. And the other is, I guess, maybe a council discussion, how we would feel in February about allowing public comment at the beginning on all items and also allowing folks to request that something be moved earlier.
All right, so let's do any clarifying questions at the moment. We'll do some public comment if anyone wants to weigh in, and then we'll have a discussion. So any clarifying questions? Okay, we're gonna have discussion in a minute. Any comments from the public? Okay. So discussion. Anyone have?
Just want to clarify again. You shared a lot of really valuable information there, Sarah. The couple of concrete changes you want to make right now, could you repeat what those are?
Yeah, I'd like us to just say under Ramadan, plan to end before sunset if possible, because I think in reality, our meeting will probably run past the end. And down under Diwali, Deepavali, I'd like us to change those dates to reflect the actual dates of the holiday this year, which are November 6th to 10th, and a parenthesis saying especially avoid a meeting on the 8th.
Great. I'm definitely in favor of those, and I'm happy to discuss further how best we can make sure that our meetings are accessible to and inclusive to everybody in the community.
So, Matt, you have some? Nope. So it feels like we need a amendment with those 2 changes that we'll vote on, and then vote on the underlying order. And I think we need to, in the council leadership agenda planning meeting, leadership meeting, we'll have to talk about bringing the order around the public comment. I do think there's complexities to having anyone kind of arrive at a meeting and say, we need to move the order. I just from like, you're out of order, Matt Powers.
I think that's a great idea, Dan, but I would like to hear from folks here if anyone, apart from the logistical problems that we might figure out as we discuss it in leadership, does anyone sitting at the dais have a philosophical problem with giving 1 month of the year where people can request? We don't have to do it. It doesn't say that it has to be done, but people could at least request if they're not able to stay.
I guess for a month out of I'm not going to make too big a deal out of it either way.
Yeah, I like the idea, and I think it counts. I think it still should the council will still have to make a decision, I think, but if someone comes forward and says, I'd like to do this, we do it all the time anyway. Like, we did the Crossland when we had a bunch of students last week or 2 weeks ago. We moved out order around to accommodate people. And I like that we're able to do that as long as, the speakers that the town manager and staff set up aren't too unduly, we're here for the duration. So if we can make it easier on people, I like that we do that. So Councilor, Chair DeShane.
I just wanted to just say that for the public as well, to never forget with a counselor or the staff, you can send comments to us. We'd rather have you here in person, but if you can't make it for whatever reason, sharing them with us, we definitely would share them that way, make them part of the record. So that's always available to other people as well if they can't make it, no matter what the circumstances.
Okay. So
We have the online access.
absolutely. All right, Sarah, do you want to formalize your amendment?
Okay, I'll just read it again. Under Ramadan, just suggest that in the parentheses, it says plan to end before sunset if possible. Under Diwali, Deepavali, suggests that those dates be changed to November 6th to 10th, with a parentheses added to say, especially avoid scheduling on November 8th.
Okay, so that's a motion, and I'll
Second.
second it unless somebody, I haven't seconded anything all day. Can I second this one? Okay, thank you. So moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Okay, all those in favor of Sarah's amendment? That's unanimous. And now we'll go back to the underlying order. Any final discussion on order 25277 as amended? Okay, all those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you. Good work. That's all the action items, right? Thank you, Amanda. Now we're gonna go to council committee reports. And we'll start with the Community Development Committee.
We are just continuing to work on ways to prioritize all the safety concerns of our citizens when it comes to roads, walkways, and bicycling in the town.
Finance and Operations.
Yep. The December 1st, we'll have a workshop on bonding to discuss what Clint is going to present here in a couple minutes. Next meeting also, we will have the ordinance come forward on spending limits. That's what we decided, correct? Okay, yes. To revise the spending limits and thresholds for when something has to go out to bid, come to council, etc. So that'll be before council. And then finally, we talked about the council referral process and making sure we're staying on top of filling out the referral sheets. So the only one we're missing is the Safer Grant reports, which I believe, Andrea, you asked that be referred to committee. So can you work with Amanda or Clint to actually fill out the form that was created? That's it.
Okay, then nominations, evaluations, and council policies committee.
We are still working on the policy and procedures manual. I guess the good note there is that we've made a lot of progress and that tomorrow at the kickoff retreat, you all will get a draft of the first part of the manual, not the appendices, but there is at least a draft for you all to see tomorrow.
Okay, ordinance review.
Nothing very new to report due to a scheduling issue for Shelley. We're going to be not having this meeting that was supposed to be scheduled for this week. So we'll be getting back at it soon enough. But continuing to be on our work plan is to try to get a more concrete schedule together for our last discussion that we can aim toward for sort of what the full cycle is of ordinance review and then ongoing work on business licensing and other issues.
Okay, DEIB.
We heard it at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, comprehensive plan committee. The comprehensive plan is coming to the council for a hearing on, I think it's December 15th. Did we already set that, right? When did we set that with last? Did we today? So good. Plan, the public hearing will be on December 15th and we'll get that wrapped up and done. And council chair update. I would share that we had a very good neighbor committee meeting. Really appreciate staff. Clint and Dan Merrill, our police chief, sharing data with us. It was a really good conversation. We heard, we get some really good feedback from we welcome our new student members to the committee. And we had, heard some from the neighborhoods, the people that are on the committee. We heard that had been mellow, and I hope that's people's observations as well. But we'll meet again in March and April. And I know that our student government representative to the council will give an update to the student senate tomorrow, and we'll hear back from them about their thoughts moving forward. But it was just, they're really pleased with the way that the staff and the police department are administering the program. A lot of grace. Grace was a term that was used. You saw that in the data. There were 30 complaints or calls into in one form or another, how they came in. 15 of them were not a disorderly activity. 15 of them were. Of the 15, more than half, so 8 of 7 did not resulted in a warning rather than a violation leading to a fine. There were fines, 7 fines. It seems like there's ever trouble with the disorderly activities, it seems to happen well after the 10 o'clock number that we talked about. So in terms of bedtimes and quiet hours and things like that. So that's something for us to consider as we blow way past 10 o'clock before, that ordinance is being triggered or those events are happening and triggering complaints. And interestingly, we've only had one complaint, a second violation at a property resulting in a landlord fine. So that's interesting, that first engagement with the disorderly activity and then the follow-up. And I'm really pleased with the follow-up. We don't want to punish anybody. We just want to educate people, create awareness. And this has been while making it clear that, everyone does need to pay attention to good behavior in our neighborhoods. And I think it strikes me that we're striking the right balance so far. And we certainly have more to do in terms of awareness, in terms of making people aware. But it was a good meeting. You have a question, Jake?
Yeah. Thanks for the report. So the fine goes towards the students or
Residents. We don't use the word
resident, or
students.
sorry,
Yeah,
the
yep.
residents.
Yep.
So what type of recourse do we have because it looked like a lot of them hadn't responded. So what type of recourse? They don't own property, they don't register, or they may or may not register the car here. So what's to stop them from just saying, okay, fine, I'm not going to pay this?
Collections. We
would send it to collections.
So that's
on
what we're
point.
debating is the when and the how. We talked a little bit to the committee about that it could go to collections and got some ideas for future years as well. But, ultimately with one paying, it's not only fair if they all pay. It was same circumstances. They were all in violation. So we're going to do everything we can to get the others to pay.
Yep. And I would share too, any more questions about? No. Yep. I would share, being mindful of the academic calendar and the Good Neighbor Committee schedule. We'll have a meeting in March or April, and then a meeting in June or July. I do want us to think about, as a council and the committee, how do we do as much as we can to be responsive to the academic calendar and make any future decisions about the ordinance. I think there's probably broad agreement that there's opportunities to improve the ordinance based on what we've learned. The doubling of the doubling gets to the point where it's just nonsensical. And I think there are things we could do there. I don't think we have to wait 365 days to figure out that $1 million worth of fines for the 12th violation doesn't, be great for the new fire truck reserve, but we're never going to collect it anyway. So why don't we just, we could put some caps in place and things like that. So I would like to see us try and do something before the end of the academic year, so we get some engagement from the entire community. But we'll talk about that and get some feedback from the folks, our student representatives who did a good job, I thought, at the meeting last week. So. Okay, and I think that's it we've got the retreat tomorrow. And for people, thank you very much to the staff for the idea. Thank you to the counselors for doing their homework. We've got a lot of stuff to read or to review between now and tomorrow. It's going to be here, and it is a public meeting, formally. We won't be any opportunities for public. We're going to record it. Clint, what was the just to share with the public in terms of what the retreat is, so they, we're not.
Yep.
So can you kind of walk us through?
So rather than having a council meeting or in the budgets, learning about what the different departments do, all years learning what different departments do, we're going to focus on a kickoff retreat on getting to know all the department heads, what their big issues they see as the coming year, whether they be new state statutes or just local issues that we're having to contend with, what their challenges, what their opportunities are. That information has been shared to you. All staff's been directed to come in with the expectation that you've read that memo and they're not to reread it. So we're going to do a quick hello, tell you what was on it, maybe point out to the one thing they thought was extremely important to them. And then they want to just talk to you because there's a lot of them. I think we counted 14 different groups. That would allow us about 8 to 10 minutes each. So we really wanted to focus in on that conversation and then have dinner and talk a little bit more about where the town's going, what's headed. After that ends, then that becomes more of a council retreat where they get very focused with the information you learn from staff and to start building into what's going on with you, how the committees work, what the committees are doing, why are their charges good, where are you with your goals from last year, how did my work plan pan out? We've seen those final reports. We'll touch on that again, and then hopefully come out the other side with a plan moving forward. One of the other little pieces in there was a little report done by the manager on some of the wins, like from the staff perspective. So, and it was kind of two components. One was what is a big thing that happened in the prior year? And then the next one's what's one little thing that could happen in the next year that means we were successful? That's my input from listening to the staff on what those would mean. Some of them were small and some of them are huge. But again, I would say this town that Orono's had an extremely successful year. And with the momentum we're making, I think there's many more of those to come. But I think this kickoff retreat is a great example. Staff came up with this great idea, seeing the challenges of last year's budget. And the second this was suggested to the council, they adopted this as a new idea. So excited to try it, make it grow and get better as years go forward. But it's hopefully going to focus us more when we come to the budget on the budget itself. Not what does the fire department do, but what is it in the budget and what are the financial requests of the budget and why.
So we will not make anything that it needs a decision and a vote. We'll get a decision and a vote at a subsequent council meeting.
Yep.
So there'll be no votes cast at this retreat tomorrow. We're going to record it, and I don't know if we're going to post it or not, but if someone really wants to see it, there's going to be some good dad jokes. I've got several of them all queued up and ready to go, but if anyone wants to see it, they'll be able to access it as a public document. Right, Clint?
Yes.
Yep. 100% both the recording and the quality of the dad jokes.
Yes.
Yes.
See, I
Oh.
worked one in there just already.
And it's right here, right? Correct? In this space,
It's in
starting
this
at
space.
3 o'clock
3 o'clock tomorrow.
tomorrow, for anyone who does want to be here a long time.
I'm excited about. Okay, thank you for that. That concludes the council chair update.
All right. So few things on the manager's update. First, this Thursday is the Scott Scripture Memorial Thanksgiving Dinner. If people still, contact the town, we'll be doing our deliveries on Thursday. Thank you for all those that have volunteered and helped contribute. The next item, there are multiple documents linked. This is not a discussion of those items. December 1st has been scheduled as a workshop on this. This is all the bonding materials. When you look at those, to quickly explain, the bonding considerations is a memo outlining all the things that went in to get us to where we were. The bonding options is the second PDF, and that did have some formatting issues. So I'm working with that to kind of clean it up because converting it to a PDF made it a little bit confusing, and we're going to try to clean it up. But if you focus on the first few pages that are just the town and just WPCF without the additional extra information, it does really focus in on spending options and revenue options. Then the third attachment is an email from Moores and Cabot. That is straight, direct emails between the two of us on answering some questions, but thought it's helpful to understand why. And the biggest one in there is why is it beneficial to bond once, so that you're not doing them in multiple ones. We're not a very large city that can do a small bond every year and just have that rolling debt service. It's better for us to pick an interval. And then this meeting and the workshops about the council, what do you want to do? There's a lot of options in front of you. After a lot of debate and back and forth, there is a concept there, and it's a summary of a concept. Staff has talked this out and came up with a recommendation. We're happy with any direction you choose. This is where the council has to make some tough decisions. But if you wanted to focus in on all that information and come up with one, I tried to make a one-page summary for you of what a concept is we could implement and what it would look like. So that was the last piece. So those are there. If you have questions or follow-up, get them to me. Because the more we can have prepared and answered for you in advance of the workshop, I think the more time we can spend on the actual conversation, and that can be all getting out to you earlier. I would ask, try to get it to me no later like than the Monday or Tuesday right after Thanksgiving, if possible. So 1 week from 2 weeks from today. Sorry, I had to do the math in my head, right? 2 weeks from today. No, that is the day of the workshop. Get your questions to me the week of Thanksgiving. Sorry. So next Monday or Tuesday, 1 week from today. I had it right partly, just had the date of Thanksgiving wrong in my head. We good?
Good.
Update on Crossland Hall. The University of Maine did put in an application for demolition. They have since pulled that, and they're going to have a Board of Trustees discussion on it. They will not be resubmitting until into January. That's just a matter of fact of where it is. I don't know what the process is. From the town standpoint, there isn't, we're monitoring the process. I'll keep you updated. If something changes on your end, let staff know. Okay?
All right, and we'd want to keep Joe and the students who are here.
I've been the
updated.
whole way through.
Good man.
And telling them whenever I know something of value. They've been great to follow up with me as well.
Yep.
So
So I like it. I like the word modeling. Yep. Transparency and engagement on that. Thanks.
the next one, so I want to give an update on Anthem Blue Cross. There's two pieces to this. So first and foremost, they did sign a new agreement, and the town's health insurance is through the Maine Municipal Employees Health Trust, and that is Anthem. So we were getting staff questions about it. That has been extended. There's no impacts. In this, full disclosure and transparency, we were contacted by a competitor and offered a very good offer for equal service in theory, based upon the actual plans they were offering for a significant reduction in cost. But it wasn't completely apples to apples, but I don't want to hide that from you that there was a cost savings. From my perspective as your manager, this impacts 85 employees that participate in the program. Some of them are in unions. This is something we have to talk about and negotiate. As we move forward, I am going to bring this up because had we been put in a tough situation and no deal had been found, we would have been in a tough spot. We would have been at the whim of anybody without any control of our destiny and where we want to be. So we're going to talk about that as a staff and as a team, and I'll come back to you with some recommendations. But I would hate to see us being dictated to what our health insurance options are rather than having a voice in what they may or may not be. That's all I wanted to do for an update there and make you aware that we were receiving unsolicited quotes for reductions in costs that we have cast aside. County budget. So tomorrow night during our meeting, they have scheduled well in advance and never notified us until a week or two ago that they're meeting on the county budget. They have adopted a budget, thought it was around 20%. I guess the report of what's online and was posted today for tomorrow's meeting is just under 20%, 19%. Did have a phone call from the Bangor Daily today, did talk to them. I shared that the council's goal is always to focus on the town budget. As you know, we have the town, the county, and the school. All three of those make the municipal. We really focus in on the town. We understand the county has some issues, but it is a significant increase. So I'm going to pass down to you just a quick little spreadsheet I put together comparing to 2016-17. I did that because it was the easiest one to find on our website with actual numbers I could compare to last year's budget on. I'm going to focus on the county and the town. The school's there, but just for reference purpose. Since 2016, 2017, county taxes through this year have gone from 539,000 to 1,000,008. That's an 86.97% increase. In that same time period, the town with overlay went from 4.2 million to 4.7, a 12.5% increase. I used the number of 20.8, so that's slightly high when you look at the next year's estimate. We haven't done the town side yet. But if the budget that goes through at the county level goes through, they will have exceeded 120% increase since 2016 and 17. That's aggressive increases. They've spent down their fund balance. I can't tell you for sure how badly. I've heard comments that the jail's 5 million over budget, but I've heard that doesn't include the rest, that their fund balance is completely gone. Alls I can tell you is for certain is the last memo I saw was that the jail was $4.5 million in the hole for unanticipated revenue losses. They were anticipated because they've known about them every year for the past 5-6 years. I have spoken to our commissioner, David Marshall, about what's going on and said that this would be a difficult situation for the town and for the whole county, and that we're very supportive. A letter went out from the managers. I told you about there was a manager meeting. They bulleted. I have not seen the final letter, but it is being shared. Brewer led the charge. It's not their letter. They were just facilitating it. And we were very positive. We want them to change their fiscal year. They need to get their debt down to a reliable level, and we want to help fill that gap. We think the budget committee design needs to be reviewed at state level in the state statute. They need a strategic advisory committee or strategic planning committee that is not of elected officials, but is also municipal appointed. Managers and treasurers and finance directors is what we recommended. They need to improve their communication, getting information the day of a meeting, day before a meeting, not knowing dates until the week of the meeting is just not good for planning. We wanted a list of all their audits. We don't know when their last completed audit was. We'd like to see that. We want to know more about their departmental budgets. There's things going on there that we don't all necessarily understand. One in particular was that rural contracted patrol generates 85% of the cost of the deputies. We don't know what that means. It seems like that means 15% is funded by all county taxes and paying entities. And we don't know if that means it's just their labor, or does that mean their cruisers are included or not included, insurances, just a lot of questions that we thought should be clarified as they're moving forward. And then we were all very supportive. We understand they need a jail and they can reduce costs. They should make firm commitments to those cost savings when a new jail is built and explain those to us and communicate us to the region. So that was a long update. The county budget's kind of taken a mind of its own. At this point, going to kind of step back and be part of what their process is and hope that they will continue it on their own and focus on the town of Orono going forward.
Can I ask a clarifying question just on the page you
Sure.
handed down? I always want to be sure I'm understanding numbers. So the numbers you gave us here from 2016, 17 to 2025, 26, that's obviously not the full town budget. What is that? What part of
That
the
is
town
county,
budget?
that is tax dollars. That is only
Okay,
the amount
so
of property.
That is the
tax.
amount actually being collected in property taxes toward the town on any given year, or toward the county, or toward the school.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all it is, just taxes.
Thank you.
Then let's see, what else do we have? The interpretive plan, I did have an update. They had trouble scheduling last Friday. They are working towards to an end result. They asked me if we had any deadlines. I said, I'd like to know a little bit more about what I could know going into next year's budget. They gave me a little bit. I'm going to clarify. Right now, I told them, let's try to get wrapped up by January. So that's kind of the timeline, but again, they're working on it as best they can. They've had some schedule issues as well. The next one, thank you, Councilor Powers, but we did take care of the abandoned refuse at the Brandon Silk Bridge. It actually was both sides of the bridge, which was part of the confusion. It shouldn't have been missed, but some of it was picked up and some wasn't. And then we realized that there was 2 encampments. So we took care of that, and that's all been cleaned. I'm to remind you, December 1st, we're going to do counselor portraits or photos. So when you come here, dress however you would like and look however you'd like for the photos.
What day was that?
December 1st.
My summer tan will be completely faded by then,
Yeah.
but whatever.
Yeah. Webster infrastructure improvements for the railroad. If you got questions, ask me, but the railroad's slowed it up. They can't get flaggers. They're right now working on multiple other ways to do this. We're doing updates to the whole region. They're about to pave over and fill the hole because they have no definitive plan of when they can get agreement with the railroad to come back and finish the work. So they're looking to every alternative they possibly can. It's been a struggle and they continue to struggle. The town is staying as involved as possible, but leaving the work to the contractor and the railroad to figure it out and not being a third person confusing the conversation. We're just making sure that the residents in the neighborhood are well informed of what the impact may or may not be. So, sorry, wish I could control that one, but can't. And then last one, winter parking ban. I want to announce, our rule is December 1st or the first plowable snowstorm. That's what our website says. I did see, and I want to thank the counselors that shared with me, and I had seen that there was some conversation on that over the weekend. If the council feels we need to be more clear on this, we can, but our website does say December 1st or forced plowable snowstorm. We only post to Facebook when we know that the winter parking ban may be coming. So with the storm we had coming this weekend, we didn't make a notice that be prepared, the winter parking ban could take effect. And I would look at did we tow anyone over the weekend related to? Yes, we had some towing. Okay. So some vehicles were towed over the weekend related to the parking ban. Some said they didn't see it on our social media, but they had gone to our website. So I do apologize for that, and we will make some things clearer on it. But our website does say first snowable event, and this a plowable event, and this was a plowable event. I think we're good. Let me know if you have more questions. I can handle as best. And then the last little one that's not on there is I did get notice that the police department did receive a grant. We'll get more information coming to you, but they will be implementing a Bureau of Highway Safety grants, $5,800 for distracted driving enforcement and $8,600 more for speeding enforcement. So they will be doing more details to be doing speeding and distracted driving.
5,800 for distracted driving and how much?
58 for distracted, 86 for speeders.
Whew.
So, and we are still working, right? The update on that one is it looks like December 1st is what we're trying to align, or the 1st of December for a notification that slow down. Orono is going to be paying more attention than we already are on speeding, particularly the Route 2 corridor, as directed by council 2 weeks ago. Can't do that. Can't do that. So
that's well timed, and that's
Yeah.
good news. So
Yep.
we'll put those resources to good use, and I'm sure we'll have some good visibility. Yeah. Good. Thank you for that update. We do not have any public petitions. Future agenda items, council requests for supporting items. Councilor Baker?
Yeah, so I would like to bring a resolution recognizing cross-country soccer team. I will sponsor it if John wants to sponsor the soccer team with me. This has been talked about so many times, but what's the process?
Someone has to draft language to
I can
bring
do
to
that.
us. So
Perfect.
You
All
write
right.
it and give it to us. We'll put it on the agenda.
Easy peasy. All right, cool.
You can get bananas here. Well, I've got the phone number if you want to try and get bananas, but
Okay.
thanks for doing that. That's awesome.
Dan, I've got something.
Yeah, let's move my way. Anybody else on this end? I kind of have a left bias, just people probably can't believe, but yep, Council Marks.
I just wanted to cycle back to an email I forwarded out that I forwarded to staff so staff could follow up with a community member. But there is concern just about the increased number of trains and how many are at night during nighttime hours. And I understand that we have a lot of restrictions on whether we as a town can do anything about that. But I do feel like we deserve some kind of report back out to the community about what we can and can't do and whether we've had a discussion with the railroad at all recently. I live a little bit further away and I sleep with a very loud fan on. So I'm not actually aware, but I'm hearing, Andrea may also be hearing, and people in other neighborhoods may also be hearing from other neighbors or themselves that it seems like the number overnight is going up. And I've been getting questions, so.
We do have, to that, we had that presentation with the train company, CSX, when Cornell, before Clinton started. So it would have been like April of the year you started. And then we do have in the comprehensive plan, there's a bullet about, and some of this was going back and forth on the social medias. There's this quiet zone opportunity that communities can pursue. And that is one of the items that's in the comprehensive plan. A community member brought that forward so that, as part of Orono's 10-year plan would be to hope, and we'd have to budget for it and do, because those would be expensive. But if you put the right measures in place at all of our crossings, and we have a lot of them, 6, I think. Yeah. We should have made Zach do one up at his crossing next to his new site. But, we could be a quiet, you still hear the rumbling, but they wouldn't have to blow the whistles. So if we tick that off the list in the comprehensive plan, we would accomplish that. That would be helpful. That would address the 4 blasts of the whistle. And it was interesting. Good news is it's kind of those word about good neighbor stuff is getting around, because people are like, well, we could just, call 866-4000 and have Dan Merrill stop the trains and give them, that's not exactly as much as the town of Orono is not empowered to, there's limits to the power of the Orono Town Council. That's certainly one of them. Yeah, people push us around all the time, but that was interesting. Okay, well, thank you for that. Anything, I've got a couple. Matt, did you want to talk about the bridge item and have more of a conversation about that, or?
I'm fine. You can.
Yeah, we
say that
did. We
for us.
talked a little bit about,
Mhm.
I'm interested in people's interest in, we had the abandonment at the,
Yeah.
underneath the bridge, and we'd had some conversation about, I think Clint, Sarah and I in our agenda setting about whether or not the town can enforce no overnight camping on town property. We understand that it might be state property, but the town is, I'm interested in council's interest in talking about it further, because the policy was, not to enforce any overnight camping there. I know that we get some concerns about it, and so I just wanted to see if council wanted to have a discussion about it.
Yeah, actually, I would like to have a discussion about
Okay.
it in the future. Maybe have an agenda item, because there are a number of different approaches I think that could enhance public use of lands, possibly even in that area, that would also decrease people's wanting to camp there. And so it would be a good in both ways. So there's a whole bunch of different things that probably are impossible, but we should discuss it
Yep.
with a wide range of ideas.
And I know there's a second side of this coin, right?
Going to say, so,
Yep.
so my issue here is that if we're going to talk about this, I really want us to talk about houselessness. And,
Agreed.
if folks do not have houses in Orono, I'm actually more concerned that they have a place to camp than that we're getting them out of a place that they're in. So, I really think we need to have if we're going to address this, a bigger conversation about what resources are we providing and how are we assisting people who may be utilizing that space because they are houseless at that time.
Yep. Okay.
I-
Andrea?
I appreciate that you brought that forward. That was something that neighbors had approached me on. And yeah, I would like to have further discussion. I think there's a safety issue with the number of people now using the parks and walking and biking.
I'm more concerned with just the level of environmental harm that can occur from that if it's not regulated. That's my deepest concern is some of that. So but yes, we should have a discussion at another time. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll work in the agenda setting meeting and bring forward a kind of a broader conversation, so we can give staff direction if we choose to about, where we are on that. I had one other thing, accidents at Westwood. I think, I think there are a couple accidents at the Westwood Main Street intersection this week. I don't know if I didn't see them myself, but I get the home report on them. Yeah. Is there any uptick there or anything? No.
Like I said, I only know
Yeah.
from driving through there that a car rear-ended a pickup truck.
Yeah.
On Saturday, I believe it was.
So I've always understood that when we talked about having a light there as a potential, now we're the full-on Route 2 project is not immediate. And we're gonna have to bite this thing off in bite-sized chunks. I mean, I still want to get out. I don't want to get the whole thing done, but realize that we're not going to be able to do it in one order off the menu. And I just wonder if at some point the urban myth we talked about was that people had looked at whether or not a light at Westwood was viable, and were told that my impression was that someone somewhere thought that the state had told us that you couldn't do it.
Mhm.
And I don't know if the data now reflects kind of more of an opportunity to address it with a traffic light. And I don't know if that's the right approach or not, but I think this is it gets to the point where it's a political decision, and I think all things are possible in political conversations. So if we, our youngest drivers are coming in and out of there all the time, and I want to just put it on the table as a future item to discuss in terms of whether there's an opportunity there or not to put a light in, if that's the right approach. But it's noticed a couple incidents this week that got reported to me. So, okay, that concludes that. Nothing else? Anything else? Nope. Final public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay. Do we have an executive session? Okay, no executive session. So, John, you want a motion to adjourn your first meeting as an Orono Town Councilor?
Absolutely. Motion
Okay.
to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Okay, we're done. 7 minutes before, I'm not saying, don't shut me off yet. I want Leo to see this. But we got John Quinn instead of Leo Kenny, and we got done 7 minutes early.
You're welcome.
Good night, Orono.